Plenty of LA Kings fans are chiming in on the disappointment of this season and what's to come. And plenty of fans are specifically calling out the head coach and one player in particular. We'll get into all that and more on this fan feedback edition of Locked On LA Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Kings. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Kings fans, welcome to Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On LA Kings your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. I'm Eddie Garcia, your host of Locked On LA Kings. I've worked in sports media for the past 30 years. Also one of the co-hosts of Locked On NHL Game Night, a nightly podcast and YouTube show that recaps the night in the NHL. Before we get to your emails, two things. First, we have so many emails that we will have to have two feedback shows. Not really a surprise there. A lot of people are venting and frustrated, which is understandable. Today will be part one. Part two of the fan feedback will be on Sunday because Saturday we'll have our Kings Flames recap show. And number two, I said there was two things. I can't believe the Kings did not fire Jim Miller on Friday. I'm absolutely shocked. And there's also, unfortunately, some bad news to pass along going into Saturday's game against Calgary. Forward Andrey Kuzmenko, week to week after undergoing surgery for a torn meniscus in his knee, he's been placed on injured reserve. When it rains, it pours. All right, let's get to the emails. We'll start with Dalen in Calgary. He says, hey, Eddie, despite me being a longtime listener, I remember when it was Sarah hosting. This is my first time ever emailing. I always listen on my train rides through the week. Well, thanks for taking us along with you, Dalen. I was originally on the fence about acquiring Panarin. I had a feeling that Ken Holland would do anything in his power to at least stay relevant, which in my opinion is never a place you want to be. And to be a cup contender, you want to be a cup contender, a rebuilding team, or a team on the upswing. I think the Kings have way too many issues other than being one or two guys away from a cup. That being said, we definitely won the deal in a vacuum, but was it really the right move to stay relevant? I hate to use that word anywhere around my hockey team. I'm not opposed to going all in as long as it's done right. Getting a mid to late 20 age center that could potentially replace Kopitar for the future is almost a need at this point. I personally love Robert Thomas, but understand that it will take a lot to get him. I'm not too keen on Elias Pettersson, but I think if you put him next to Kuzmenko again, that's not going to happen for now. They could both do some serious damage. I think a player like Nick Schmaltz would be the perfect addition to the middle six and ideally slot him in at center. Who would I move out for those two big trades? It's Moore and Fogle, maybe Turcotte if absolutely necessary, and almost everyone in the system other than George. Finally, I'm going to Kopitar's final regular season game here in Calgary. I can't wait to watch the team again in person. Just hoping Hiller doesn't Hiller and should be a blast. Thanks for everything you do for the Kings community, Eddie. You're truly awesome. All the best. Dalen in Calgary. I hope I got that first name correct, by the way. Thanks for being a longtime listener and viewer. I appreciate the support and glad you finally were decided to write in. I think Robert Thomas would be a great pickup as well. But the Blues are going to look for a significant return, as they should. I'm not confident that a Pettersson-Kuzmenko reunion might work as well as some might, but then again, Kuzmenko is not even available right now. Nick Schmaltz, I think, is a potential off-season move. I think the Utah is going to hold on to him the rest of this season. I hope you have a great time seeing Anze Kopitar's last game in Calgary. I hope you have a great time. Fred in Orange checking in. He says, as always, you're more than holding down your own. Thought you were great in the post-finals roundtable. I think he's talking about the post-gold medal shows that I did for the Locked On Network. Anyway, he says, Drew Doughty sure looks to me like he's aging fast. He gave it his all in Milan. Can't see how he's going to have anything left after all for the next 7 weeks or so. Vincent Trocheck, if there's any way the Rangers would consider dealing with the Kings again, I think Ken Holland should try and pull off another swindle. Earlier in the week on another show, I was asked what we'd have to give up to get him. I'm still reluctant to trade away QB. He's one of the few skilled players we have. Warren Fogle, if he's not damaged and won't resurrect over the offseason with surgery, then maybe Warren's tradable. How about silver medalist Drew Doughty? which leaves us the Jim Hiller predicament. If the Rangers were to let Mike Sullivan go, either now or before mid-March, I'd say snap him up. If he and Hiller both last to April, then get Sullivan on the assumption he's let go. But now that DeBoer is finished with Team Canada, why not get him before February is over, or Peter Laviolette? Or I know you've scoffed at this one, but Torts did a fine job as Sullivan's assistant. Torts still has some seasons left of him. He could be the guy to shore up QB's erratic game. Go Kings go, and that is Fred in orange. I am not a John Tortorella fan. I don't think he has anything left. I think I could have been an assistant for Team USA and done a decent job. But the only way I would consider him is if the Kings wanted to do a similar situation than what Columbus is doing with Rick Bowness. If you want to bring him in to jolt the system for just this season and not consider bringing him back after this year, I'd be open to that. I don't think Mike Sullivan's going anywhere with the Rangers. And if Pete DeBoer or Peter Laviolette are interested, yes, absolutely. As for silver medalist Drew Doughty, he isn't going anywhere unless he asks for a trade, and I don't see him doing that. Vinny in Burbank says, just wanted to email you after the embarrassing defensive performance and give my thoughts. First off, I want to give props to Q for having a standout game and Panarin for doing what we all thought he would do. On the other hand, Cody Ceci and Joel Edmondson, I'll throw Dumoulin in there too, just had an awful game. The plays that led to the third period goals were all plays that they missed the puck or got hemmed in for 5 minutes. I also want to note that Forsberg should have stopped 2 or 3 of those goals because he did not look good in net. Panarin came here because he knew that we were a lockdown defensive team and that we didn't give up a ton of goals, which leads him to score. He scored, and now we have to find the other part of that sentence. Absolutely embarrassing for the Kings to greet Artemi to LA with a 6-4 loss. Oh, and not to mention Vegas was missing 5 Olympians on their roster. The Kings still found a way to disappoint us again. They have to figure it out now or this season will be gone, and that was Vinny in Burbank. Funny reading these emails after the Vegas game because we know what's to come. We're not even – there's plenty of people upset about that game against Vegas, and rightfully so. This is coming from Jorge or George in Valencia. It's spelled with a J, so I'm not sure which way. But anyway, he says, I've been a fan for 32 years, and this is my first time emailing the show. Saw the game against Vegas and can't believe they were not ready to play. That's on Hiller. Also, am I the only one seeing Byfield getting pushed around? Do you think they should trade him? Even Panarin stood up to Lausanne. Granted, he took a penalty. I just see him getting punked too easily, talking about Byfield, especially in the playoffs. No grit. And that was Jorge or George in Valencia. I would not trade Byfield at this point. I'm still not willing to give up on him yet. I see him like going to another team and turning into this great player, but maybe I'm delusional. I think, if you're Ken Holland, you do have to consider all options at this point. And Q is not very strong on his skates, and he does get pushed around a lot. And that is something that a lot of people are commenting on in this episode. Chris in Oceanside says, hey, Eddie, it's been a while. And although I've enjoyed your podcast, I think Holland essentially stole Panarin. In light of the Kevin Fiala injury, I think the writing is on the wall and pretty clear. With my favorite King, Andrey Kopitar, in decline, and with the obvious deficiencies that were exposed to the game against Vegas, who were missing 5 of their studs, it's time to face facts. This team can't compete for much this season. If Holland can get a player at a fair price with an extension built in, like with Panarin, then great, do it. If you can't, then please stand pat and wait for the offseason. We'll have the Kopitar money freed up as well as the ability to make better deals once he fires this coach and hires one that can better right this ship. Keep up the good work. Go Kings, go. Chris in Oceanside. Well, I don't think the money side of things are an issue right now. The issue is, can you get a top 6 winger, preferably a center, this year, or would you rather wait until the offseason, maybe sign a UFA like a Schmaltz, and then you don't have to give up anything to get him? All right, as has been kind of touched on already, there are a lot of Kings fans that have had enough of Quinton Byfield. We'll read their comments next on Locked On LA Kings, your team every day. If you've ever hired someone who looked good on paper but wasn't the right fit, you know how important that is. And when you want candidates who truly match what you're looking for, trust Indeed sponsored jobs. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites. Indeed sponsored jobs put your post at the top of the page to help you reach the right candidates faster. Instead of struggling to get your job post seen, Indeed sponsored jobs helps your listing stand out and reach quality candidates faster. Sponsored jobs boost your post to people who who are the best match for your role, and that makes a real difference. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed are 90% more likely to report a hire than non-sponsored jobs. Spend more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with less stress, less time, and more results using Indeed sponsored jobs. Listeners of this show get a $75 sponsored job credit to help give your job the premium placement it deserves at Indeed.com/lockedon. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support the show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, do it the right way with Indeed. Frank in Ranchos Palos Verdes checking in. He says, well, after thoroughly enjoying and watching each and every game during Team USA's incredible gold medal run, it's back to Kings hockey. First off, Hiller needs to go and go now. His line combinations are horrible. It's as if he was trying to put the four worst combinations possible together and expect greatness. Byfield, Kopitar, more? Are you kidding me? Let's put three of the worst performing players together and magic will happen. Second, Byfield. I'm now totally open to moving him. Tired of his so-called potential. Results at some point have to be there. That had to be one of the two worst goal games that a player that has had that I can remember. One goal off the skate, the other in close after a strong forecheck by Kopitar. Once again, he failed clearing attempt late in the game, which he had both time and space, and once again decided to go along the boards and was easily kept in for some prolonged ozone for Vegas. Then to compound the situation, he let his guy beat and outmuscle him for a tap-in goal. Tough to watch. Also, how can a guy his size get constantly pushed around and easily separated from the puck for most of the game? Tough game. Your thoughts. Go Kings, go. Frank in Ranchos Palos Verdes. I mean, Q is not as strong as he needs to be. I know he's slim, but you would think that, his length and his height could kind of give him some leverage, but he does always seem to come out second best in any of those physical battles. I will say I think it's a little harsh saying it was the worst 2-goal game you've ever seen. I think the second goal was a nice goal. But yes, I will say this, it's hard going from watching the Olympics to watching what the Kings are doing right now. It's quite different. Gary from Coeur d'Alene, Idaho says, after watching the Kings' first game back after Vegas, it's painfully becoming a reality that this team is not in a good headspace. I believe they are still giving effort for each other, but not for the coaching staff. I am still constantly questioning Hiller's line combos. I understand that Panarin likes to play with a right shot center. However, I don't think Laferriere is the answer. I had him slotted in with Byfield and Kempe, but for some reason the organization has decided Byfield's now a winger again. At the very least, put Panarin with Kopitar and Kempe. We saw some quick chemistry on the Kempe goal against Vegas. The Kings need to stand pat at the trade deadline unless they could swing a deal for Robert Thomas that doesn't break the bank in assets given up. That would give them the right shot center for Panarin. If they can't work a Thomas trade, then wait until the offseason. Even if they get Thomas, they're still at least one puck-moving defenseman away from being a playoff team. Thank you for all you do, and go Kings go. P.S. I will be at the Islanders game on March 5th and would love to meet up. My first game in L.A. in 9 years. That was Gary in Idaho. I don't think it's going to be possible to get Robert Thomas without giving up significant assets. But if they could do it, I would still do it. He's young and he's a proven NHL performer. I hope you see a much better performance, Gary, when you come to LA than we've seen recently, and we will definitely meet up. Dean in Wyoming checking in. He says, love the show and listen daily. Thank you, Dean. First time writing in, and I'm doing it to vent. In last night's game against Vegas, the Golden Knights power play goal was the third direct result of QB not clearing the puck when he had plenty of time and space, reminiscent of last year's playoffs. On top of that, he was so soft with the body that he was manhandled several times during the game with no response. Quite frankly, it was embarrassing. When it comes to QB, we've been excited and impatient for several years now, and I'm at the point where I'm ready to move on. I know it's not going to happen with Kenny's plan to win now, but something clicked in me during this game where I realized I just don't want this guy on my team anymore. Ugh. Thanks for listening. Go Kings go. Dean in Wyoming. You know what I would also say about Q, he doesn't seem to have quite that same energy that we've seen from him over the last couple of years, where he was always, at least he was flying around the ice and kind of trying to set a tone. It seems like that little bit of a spark has kind of gone out in him as well. Jonathan in Germany says, sending this right after the Vegas game in pure disbelief about what happened. How can you give up 6 goals at home against a team that's missing 3 of their best 4 forwards? Not to mention they were without their best offensive blue liner as well. Can't believe I wasted sleep to watch this nonsense. Right now, I truly don't see the Kings even making the playoffs. It's unbelievable how many ways they find to lose games. The offense looked good at times. Panarin and Q were great. And then you blow it in the third period and basically let them walk and give them 3 scoring chances over and over again. Where's the dedication, the passion, the urgency? This team just got Artemi Panarin and a massive addition as they are in the defensive phase of the playoff race, and most of the players are still playing the same lethargic hockey. What's wrong? If they continue playing like this, there's almost no chance they'll get past Seattle, Anaheim, Edmonton, or Utah. In the situation they were in, and with the roster situation Vegas was in, the Kings should have dominated this game. Instead, they got crushed. There's no excuse for that. Hopefully, management will finally bring in a new coach. I think the Kings should explore a trade for Robert Thomas. More changes and moves are an obligation now because his team is miles away from being a cup contender, even from being a playoff team. All there's left to hope is for a turnaround, but my optimism is shrinking drastically. Go Kings, go. Jonathan in Germany. Well, I will say stick tap to you and all the overseas fans who have to go the extra mile to be invested in this team. I look at maybe the Kings could catch Seattle because they aren't playing well either. But at the same time, I think Nashville has looked better than both the Kings and the Kraken. Maybe they catch and pass both of us. But yeah, it's not looking good. Adam in Ottawa says, thanks for all the great podcasts. I won't send another fire the coach email. I'll simply say, isn't it interesting that Vegas felt compelled enough or confident enough to let those players miss this game? Even if we assume that the American players may not have made it back on time, the Canadians were back and went straight to Vegas. It would be nice for ownership and management to look at the situation and realize the Kings are seen as an easy 2 points. If you looked from an objective viewpoint, this should have been seen as a tough game for Vegas, back from the break against a team desperate to make the playoffs and just a few points out. But no, they knew they could walk into crypto without 5 of their best players and still have a decent shot of winning. And the worst part, they were completely right. The Kings are easy pickings. I don't love the roster construction, and a few of our D look particularly bad, but we all know one problem that is maybe too late to address. Thanks for all you do. And that was Adam in Ottawa. To your point, Adam, I have also noticed that when teams have back-to-back games against the Kings and Ducks, they almost always start their number 1 goalie against Anaheim and their number 2 goalie against the Kings, which is what you're saying. It's the lesser of the 2 opponents, and you're absolutely right. And they're correct in doing that. All right, we have more venting from Kings fans coming up, and we haven't even gotten into the Kings-Oilers game yet. That's next on Locked In LA Kings, your team every day. Ever wanted to experience the NBA Finals live and in person? FanDuel is giving you the chance to turn that dream into a reality with their NBA sweepstakes. Here's how it works. Use your profit boost on any NBA future, and you'll automatically be entered for a shot to win an NBA Finals trip for 2, flight tickets, the whole experience. If you're already looking at the board and thinking about which teams can make a deep run, this is the perfect time to lock that in. I love futures this time of year, whether it's picking a team to win the championship or grabbing a conference title. It adds that extra layer of excitement down the stretch. Of course, you've got the Lakers and the Clippers. LA, the Lakers are definitely going to make the playoffs. Clippers are fighting to get in there. And now not only can you pick winners and get cash, but also get sent to the NBA Finals. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win that trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Join the Everydayer Club for ad-free audio, access to our group chat on Discord, and more. Use code DEADLINE ahead of the trade deadline for 1 month free. Join now at lockedonlakings.supercast.com or hit the link in the show notes. Oliver in Roy, Utah says, writing this after the recent Vegas loss because we're no longer the defensive team from the past years, and at the same time, we don't have enough skilled players to keep up with any of the good teams. This is a recipe for a long season. But can we stop calling for the coach's firing? I agree with you. I wish Hiller would show more outward emotions, but if he did, would it really matter on the ice? We as fans might like to see it, but would the players? We don't have the talent to hang with good teams. Is that on Hiller? With all the talk about last year's record, we still lost in the first round again. Yes, Hiller had some coaching errors, but sorry to bring up old wounds. Who couldn't clear the puck out of the zone? The blame must be with the construction of the team and to whatever part Hiller may have made suggestions and give Luke and Holland input. He should be accountable for that. We let Roy and Gavrikov walk with no compensation. That's on Luke and Rob. Holland just got here, and yes, he got Panarin for much less than expected, but that was mostly because Panarin was put the Rangers in a bind by only accepting a trade to LA. Should Holland be praised for that? My fear is that management doesn't see this team for who they are and will be willing to trade away future assets just to lose again in the first round if we even get there. All this is doing is delaying the rebuild. With Kopitar and Doughty's career on the downslide, we should be using this as an opportunity to reset. That needs to be done through prospects and draft picks and trading for young talent, not 34-year-old wingers. The longer we keep up this facade, the longer we toil in mediocrity. I beg you, Luke and Holland, do not give away any more young prospects and draft picks. And that was Oliver in Utah. Well, you said the players might not like Hiller yelling at them. I think that's the point. I think good coaches have to challenge players when necessary, and I don't think he ever does anything like that. It's not just for our benefit to see him showing some passion. I think it's directly directed to the players to try and get them going. As far as giving Ken Holland credit for the Panarin deal, yes, Panarin helped us out a lot by basically only deciding that he wanted to come to LA. But I think you have to give Ken Holland credit for recognizing that and giving away what the Kings are willing to give away and not necessarily what the Rangers were looking to get. And look, yes, there is plenty of blame to go around. This is not solely on the shoulders of the head coach. But the easiest fix right now, and yes, there's no guarantee it fixes everything, but it can't hurt, is to make a coaching change. So Brian in Mission Viejo says, oh boy, Buona Pomeriggio, Eddie, which I'm guessing is Italian for something good. Good day or good afternoon. He says, after watching that sad game last night, which one? It's obvious that Hiller needs to go like yesterday. He always looks confused and lost behind the bench, and I'm sure that he is the reason that Gabby refused to stay in LA. 4 straight losses in a row. And fun fact, the last time the Kings won a home game was the New York game that you and I went to over 5 weeks ago. I was glad to see Kopitar got a point and Byfield contributed even if one of the goals was off his skate. The bread man seems like he's going to be a huge part of the Kings offense, and I can't wait to see what the team would be like with Fiala back in the lineup. Fire Hiller, bring back Gabby, drop Fogle, and pick up Austin Matthews. We need to beat the Oilers tonight. If we don't, I'm making my Ed and Brea prediction that we don't make the playoffs. Go Kings, go. Brian in Mission Viejo. I mean, good luck getting Austin Matthews. That's not happening. That is a nice dream. He mentions Gavrikov. I've heard about these rumors about him wanting to come back to LA. I don't know about that, but it is interesting seeing that he's apparently very unhappy with his choice of going to the New York Rangers. And who knows, maybe Artemi Panarin is feeling the same way about joining the Kings right now. Darren in the OC says, fuming at the moment. The Kings are unwatchable after the 2 games before the Olympic break. I thought we had sunk to a new low. Little did I know this was the precursor. Last night's collapse followed by tonight's lackluster pushback is enough. I turned off the game after the first. I will not watch this train wreck of Jim Hiller any longer. Fire the entire front office. I will not waste my time on this franchise not committing to winning. The fans deserve way better. Did I mention the 8 wins at home all season, second worst in the league? That was Darren in the OC. That was an email sent like right in the middle of anger and understandable. Look, Darren, I'd love to tell you to keep the faith and it's going to get better, but I can't in good conscience say that. I think there is something to be said for fans who stick with the team through thick and thin, but I also think if it's causing you that much anger, and I mean, this is supposed to be fun. It is supposed to be entertainment. It is supposed to be a distraction from our, the everyday life. But if it's not that, if it's causing you more harm than good, then I understand, turning it off and going away if you need to. But yeah, it is wild to think that the Kings were the best home team in the NHL last year, and now this year they just are. What a turnaround, and not in a good way, obviously. Nick in Brandon, Manitoba says, hey, Eddie, I hope you enjoyed the Olympic break. I'm attempting writing in for the 3rd time during this Vegas game out of rage, but I had nothing nice to say, so I figured I'd just keep it to myself. Today, however, my anger has subsided and I only feel sorrow. The boys look dejected, depressed, and utterly exhausted against Edmonton. I have to believe the slow start has been a combination of a few things, but ultimately it all falls on Hiller. As the season went on, I continually wanted to believe that things would work out, but it's clear the coaching style, he's a one-trick pony. Unless the boys come ready to play and bring some fire with them, his ability to coach is non-existent. I want to believe he's a good teacher of the game, but beyond that, I don't think he's brought much to the table. I'm in pain. If Hiller is not fired, we will not make the playoffs. Simple as that. Honestly, throw Will Ferrell back there. I'm sure that he'd have more success. Thanks, Eddie. God bless. Go Kings, go. Nick in Manitoba. I haven't seen Will Ferrell at any games recently. Maybe he's even has seen enough. But yeah, I mean, the coaching change. I've even said it's past time. Dario in Arizona says, "Hello, Eddie. What in the blue hell was that? Embarrassing. But you know what, Eddie? That might be the game the Kings were waiting for. I hate to see anyone lose their job, but after this embarrassment, I can't believe management can't see what's going on. Not only does Hiller have to go, but like I've said before, they're too slow. They need to take a deep look at this team. The only thing that worries me is that they might panic and make dumb moves. I know I sound like a broken record, but Gabby. Next game, Saturday, my prediction will be that Hiller is gone. Call me insane, but draft picks rounds 1 through 5 will get you players you need. After what we've been seeing lately, now it's insanely embarrassing. Don't fret, Kings fans. This will get better. Thank you, Eddie. Go Kings, go. And come on, management." That was Dario in Austria. I think you're being pretty optimistic, Dario, if you think management is going to do the right thing right now. They won't even fire the coach. He's still there. I still can't believe it. I think this is our final email. Our final email comes from David O, and he is in Long Beach. And he says, "Hey, Eddie, long time everydayer. Appreciate your show." Thank you, Dave. He says, "I usually agree with most of your opinions, but definitely I'm on the opposite side about NHL players in the Olympics. I know the players want to represent their countries, but the last time I looked, the NHL teams are paying their salaries. Putting themselves at risk for an exhibition tournament makes no sense. Losing Fiala for the rest of the year absolutely kills our chances this year. Crosby missing 4 weeks will greatly damage their potential playoff chances. I'm sure the owners aren't thrilled with losing these key players. And all of this for a game that wasn't on primetime TV. 5 a.m. Pacific time, why not just schedule it at midnight? The fallacy that this game will grow because of Olympic participation is flawed. Hockey has and always will be a niche sport. Rabid fans will always be there, but there has been little growth with casual fans. If you look at the NFL, fans will watch these games that don't include their favorite teams. The NHL, most fans stop watching the playoffs when their team is eliminated. And the tournament halfway around the world won't change that." And that was Dave in Long Beach. Dave, agree to disagree. You call it an exhibition tournament. I call it the greatest, best on best hockey tournament in the world. So it's a little bit more prestigious than just an exhibition tournament. I think NHL players care more about winning a gold medal in the Stanley Cup. Not everyone, but I think a lot of them do. And yes, of course, no one is thrilled about players getting injured, and certainly not owners who pay these players salaries, but they agreed to it. It was collectively bargained, so they can't complain. And they wouldn't do it if there wasn't a benefit to it. I get that the game time wasn't great for us on the West Coast. Maybe they can, in the future, look to not have the gold medal game, the last event of the Olympics, on the same day or night as the closing ceremonies. They scheduled it because they wanted that game over, and then they wanted the closing ceremonies afterwards, and they didn't want a conflict, obviously. But I will say this, 20 to 26 million people apparently watched that game in the United States. Stanley Cup Finals gets you about 2.5 to 4 million. So 20 to 26 million people tuning in. Hockey benefits from that, in my opinion. Well, that was part 1 of our Kings fan feedback show, when we barely got people commenting on the Oilers game. If you didn't hear your email read on this show, it will be read in our next show. And again, that will be following our show that will be recapping the Kings-Flames game coming up on Saturday afternoon. Thank you to everyone who took the time to email. It was great hearing from some first-time emailers as well. Wish it was a little bit more optimistic, but it is what it is. And this gives you a chance to vent, then that's part of what it's all about. This show literally not possible without your participation, as I like to say after every Fan Feedback Show. Hey, make sure you subscribe and follow Locked On LA Kings so you get all the latest episodes. And if you never miss an episode, the Everydayer Club is built for you. Get Locked On LA Kings ad-free plus members-only Discord access and more. Head to lockedonlakings.supercast.com to join the club. If you want to get an email in for a future show, the email address is lockedoneddie@gmail.com, EDDIE. We always welcome your comments if you're watching on YouTube in the comment section. We'd love you to stay interactive with the show on social media, X, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. We're at Locked On LA Kings. I'm Eddie Garcia. Thank you for listening and watching Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Have a great rest of your day. We'll talk to you next time. And as always, go Kings, go.